Up to 8 welding crews worked on the pipeline simultaneously to ensure that the daily average output of 2,500 meters could be achieved. In spite of all the technical available, building a pipeline still means hard physical labor, while also calling for millimeter precision and utmost care in making the weld joints. Each welder first had to pass a thorough qualification test before being taken on by MPCC. Other employees went through a special training program to prepare them for their tasks. Producing high-quality work under adverse conditions is not easy. The welders were not to be envied in view of the heat of the equatorial sun, the bulky and uncomfortable protective clothing they wore, and the fumes produced by welding torches. Their performance deserves our praise. Indonesia's largest pipeline project profited from the fact that Indonesia has been producing oil for over 100 years, and hence has acquired a lot of experience concerning petrochemical plants. This means that many of the tasks associated with quality control could be performed by local specialists. For example, checking the weld joints on the basis of international quality standards. Every joint was X-rayed and the test results were documented. The next step was to check the insulation of the connecting joints, some of which had been repaired, if necessary, and then tested again. This was done using an economical and reliable process. Mannesmann Demag and Nakap also assigned up-and-coming employees to responsible positions in the course of this project. Their spirit of enterprise, their enthusiasm in the face of extreme challenges were the ideal complement to the rich experience of the older managers.
This afternoon we will move the crew of Satimin by kilometers 39. So we have to rig up the side boom from the Satimin.
Of course, we came to Indonesia with certain expectations, and we were fascinated by the multitude of experiences that this country of 1,000 islands held in store for us. The close coexistence of old and new, the openness and warmth of the people, the overwhelming cultural and natural spectacles, not to forget the ever-present appeal of the exotic, at least for the Europeans involved. However, we hadn't come to Indonesia as tourists. The Indonesia that we got to know was characterized by the day-to-day routine of rural life, by fishing, by farming and forestry, by handicraft and trade. In many places we encountered simple living conditions, which, in spite of the vast boom during the last decades, are still far removed from the vision of a modern affluent society. Everywhere we went, we encountered lively children who were trying to fulfill this vision. We were happy to know that our infrastructure project was a small contribution to a prosperous future. We knew that building this pipeline wouldn't be easy. We were prepared to do our hard job under extreme climatic conditions. But there was one factor we hadn't reckoned with: the totally unpredictable weather. At first the rains didn't come, as a consequence of the El Niño phenomenon. Then they came, putting out the forest fires and cleaning the air. But they didn't stop, even when the normal rainy months were long gone.
The tropical cloudbursts themselves were much less a problem than their disastrous effects on ground conditions. The predominant ground type in Sumatra is laterite, and it has the treacherous property of becoming very slippery, just like soap, even after just a small shower. Periods of heavy rain turn it into bottomless mud, in which everything literally stops.
Often enough, the uncertainties with the weather made our daily plans impractical and hung a big question mark over our long-term plans. MPCC often spent more time operating as a breakdown and recovery service than as a pipeline construction company. The time that was lost due to the weather increased the pressure on us to compensate the losses by increasing the daily output on dry days. Even simple tasks, such as excavating a trench, were sometimes difficult. Dry sections were followed by sections in which the soil was saturated with water. The operator of the excavator could no longer see the bottom of the trench and had to feel it through his machine. Some stretches were at the other extreme, and the underlying soil had been compacted like slate. The machines used on the sections were subject to extreme stress, which resulted in them wearing more rapidly.
Lowering in the pipeline strings is supposed to be one of the highlights of building a pipeline. Like all other tasks, this was done as effectively as possible, and long lengths of pipe were laid continuously using side boom tractors fitted with cradles. The weather conditions forced us to take unusual measures. Nobody who builds a pipeline is happy about laying sections of a pipe into a trench that is filled with water. In Sumatra, there was sometimes simply no other choice. On average, the route was intersected by a road or a watercourse every 2 kilometers. This meant that it was often only possible to lay very short sections in one go, and using traditional methods. This was another of the things that didn't exactly make the project any easier. A Sunday back in the helicopter.
Is it the loftiness of the bird's eye view? Sometimes you become a philosopher when you're up here, thinking about a wish and its fulfillment and the gulf that can separate the two. Ideally, we plan to build the pipeline in a concentrated, continuous push, starting at A and ending at B. And what happened? The unforeseen events, from the haze to the effects of the crisis in Southeast Asia, forced us to split the project into 6 spreads and to work simultaneously at sites that were a long way away from each other. This placed increased demands on the logistic requirements, such as ensuring the uninterrupted exchange of the quality control reports between the spreads and the main office. Of course, these additional complications placed us under enormous pressure, but we are more than a little proud to say that the word impossible does not exist in the pipeliner's language. The best things for dealing with unexpected problems are experience, high working morale, team spirit in the joint operation, and the most modern equipment available, like the HDD equipment below us.